Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Elements, your go to podcast for career growth, leadership tips, and workplace insights. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Johnny, and today we are diving into something that controls your calendar, your career, and your caffeine intake decision making.
We packed this one with practical examples and techniques that you can use immediately, whether you're leading a team or just trying to decide if that 5 p.m. meeting should have been an email.
So let's start with the first thing, Robbie. Why decision making matters?
Johnny, you make around 35,000 decisions in a day.
Seriously?
Yes. That includes what to eat, how to reply to an email, or which meeting to skip politely.
Yeah.
But in the corporate world, some decisions, like hiring the wrong person or launching a feature too early, can cost millions or burns months of trust.
Yeah, and it's true. Recently, there was a study by McKinsey found that companies with faster and better decision making outperform peers by nearly 20% on the financial matrix. So, yes, choosing what slide to present first does matter. I have an example from 10 years back. So, I started my journey as an equity research analyst. So, I remember I spent like around a year on that particular work. And coming from a college background where you've been taught that every topic needs to have a detailed slide and everything. So they completely shattered my expectations, like what I used to think. Like in the equity research world, it was like that you have to make the least amount of slides. It's like going in an interview, but for a firm to sell or buy. It's that kind of a logic over there. So you have to cram a lot of information into 4 slides. So the first slide would be about the organization, who's the management. Second slide would be about the SWOT analysis, BCG matrix, and the third slide would be about the key financial matrix. And you apply like a 2x or a 3x growth parameter on it and how it will look after 3 years or 5 years. And the fifth one would be the moat as to why, what are the synergy to invest in this particular firm. And 5 slides and you're done. And you have to cram in a lot of information, but at the same time, it shouldn't look very dirty. So it helps the person or the investor, to be precise, to make much better decisions and faster decisions because they have very less time. They can't reach 30 pages of slides. You have to do it like in 5 to 6 slides, and probably that meeting would be done in 15 to 20 minutes, and then another 10 minutes for to do your storytelling part as well. So 30 minutes is all you get, and the investor gets 30 minutes and you get to do that in 15 to 20 minutes. So that amount of faster decision making is necessary. So the more crisp, less information but more crisp and precise information helps to do that kind of decision. So think about bigger organizations like bigger banks or bigger investment banks. How are they making those kinds of decisions? So a lean decision making obviously will help to take or apply or get results much more faster.
Agree. As a fresher, it sounds that it's not just limited to some C-suite roles.
Correct.
There are some strong judgment involved. That is a top skill which is required across industries. Like if you're an intern who asks that why are we doing this in a way, so I will say congrats, you're already ahead.
Correct. And for me, even as an intern, like when I started my journey into finance, so I started as an intern. So the very first thing that everyone told me was that get your basics right. Okay. Ensure that you know what you're doing.
Right.
And if you know what you're doing, I think that makes quite a lot of difference when you're executing a certain deal as well. And especially if you're asking it, when you're in a meeting and you're not, and you do it quite early in the day, so you can even avoid the lunch coma that you get. Okay, after lunch you're like in a coma and you're like, oh, I have to make this decision, so it's very heavy. So you try to do it when it's early. I might be talking about in a particular day, but it can also happen that, oh, you have an idea, you make the whole presentation, you do it faster and you pitch it faster. It is much more easier to convey that message across. Don't be in a haste, but take the decision faster.
Right. And for that, there are some pointers which one can remember that will lead to a good decision maker. So basically, I think the smart decision making rests on 4 building blocks.
Okay.
Let's break them down. So, analytical thinking. For example, you need to interpret data and the patterns. So let's say you're into marketing and you're doing campaigning. So good decision maker drives into the segmentation, the bounce rates, the timing, and does not just limit themselves to a design. And also we can tap into experience based gut feel, that is focus on your intuition. That we all know that a seasoned manager might feel that the candidate is too aggressive for the team, even if the resume is perfect. That's the intuition which is honed over time.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, when we take these interviews, we're looking for a candidate with the right amount of energy. Too much of energy can burn out the whole team as well sometimes, or probably create conflicts. Because too much of energy person would be like, oh, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done. But sometimes decision making needs to be timed as well. I'm not saying the right time, but I'm saying that sometimes you have to let the hype die down, so that after the hype dies down, if the idea still makes sense, then I think that's good. So hiring the right candidate with the right energy is really a good example, to be precise.
Right. And that brings us to our next point, that is continuing to what you mentioned, that will lead to the collaboration. That is, we need to have people with a diverse perspective. For example, if you're planning to develop a product in tech, so you need a finance lead or a product designer, and collaboratively you can sit together, you can look through the lenses that will help you spot risk and opportunities.
Right. Like I have one UX designer in my network, and they have this broad view of step by step process, and to get to from step A to step Z. So there are a lot of things involved. Okay, but is it necessary? A lot of things, because it involves time and cost and energy for the organization. The thing is that you can have multiple ideas and number of ideas to get, and think from one idea to another idea. Okay, you have to burn a lot of energy and burn a lot of money because ideas, there are multiple ideas, but finance is finite. So a finance lead would sit with a UX designer, or probably give an idea at least to you that this is the budget. You have to do it in this to make it cost effective.
And trying it all together that lead to action. For example, after gathering the feedback, the data, and all the gut calls, you can decide and communicate clearly and own the outcome.
Yes, because I have seen startups fail. Why? Because they cannot get their act together. The lead is doing something else. The people are doing something else. The HR is at some point. The accountant is somewhere else. So a lot of people, they don't get the act together. They don't work as a team. They work in their own silos. Everyone is working in their own silos, and that can lead to disasters as well. Yes,
I guess that is the reason the big companies have clear objectives.
Correct.
And core values.
It's like being in Avengers, but in thought. So you have logic, you have emotion, you have data, and teamwork all showing up together, and that is like a very good mantra to make things work.
I agree, because nobody wants to be Hulk with just a gut feeling and no structure.
Correct. That's absolutely true.
So let's add tools to that decision toolbox. Okay, so what are the things that you can do? And this is based on the evidence based techniques. And this is what I personally follow. What you can do is rewrite your decisions. So before making any big choice, you just jot down your rationale. For example, if you're deciding to buy a phone, so maybe you can list down the features or your requirement, or maybe if you're deciding to restructure a team, so you can write down your rationale, whether it's efficiency, workload, skill mismatch, which you can look back, so you'll have clarity and less regret, even if the things go sideways.
Correct. And it's very necessary. Like if your rationale is not clear, it can be anything. It's not only about a certain decision in your work life. It can also be in your personal life as well, that you think, oh, this particular house is really good for me. I think I like this house. Okay, fine. So then you sit down and you say, okay, I want to buy this house. And but what is the rationale behind it? What will you like? Why do you want to buy this house? Okay, so then you will list down that, oh, the cost is this, the location is this, I'm getting these features, etc.
Right.
And I feel that I have the financial position to buy this particular thing. You don't make that decision just out of whim that, oh, I like this place.
Right. And the next thing you can do is you need to seek discomforting evidence. Okay. So by that, you can ask yourself that why is it the good idea? Or you can ask that what makes this the bad idea? So in your sense, for example, if you're planning to buy a house, maybe you can ask this same question to yourself that do you really need it? Like,
first is the need. Yeah. Why do you need it? And then do you have the means for it? And if no, say for example, and even if you want to do it in future, will you have the means for it?
Right.
And will it burn a big hole that in your pocket, that will you be financially stable or not? Okay. Similarly, like there is an example that for an organization, before expanding into a new market, okay, they have to also explore the worst case scenarios. Or what if the culture fit is wrong? What if the demand is overestimated? A very great example, I would say, was Byju's, the learning platform. They overestimated their earnings. They thought that, oh, we have like a 2-4 billion market, but in reality, it was not that case. And today, like it's a done deal. It's gone from the market. So yeah, this it's discomforting, but then yes, it is also a fact that it's an evidence that you have to look at it. So that is something that has to be looked upon.
Right. I remember they saved a fintech that we know from entering into a region with the strict KYC laws that hadn't accounted for. And similarly, BlackBerry stick to the touchpad while in the same year the iPhone launch the touchscreen. So I guess it's the leadership, it's the ego, or it's a bad decision making that led to that huge drop.
Another example would be Nokia. They stuck to what was, they thought that whatever they were doing is conventional and accepted in the market. They never changed.
Right.
And it was like they were not looking at the evidence.
Right.
Because it was not conforming to their logic. Not everyone likes a slick Android phone, or nobody will be like, not everyone would be like looking for an iPhone. Obviously, they would be looking for something conventional. And unfortunately, they lost. And I think there is a interview as well that the owner of the Nokia, or at that point of time, the CEO probably, or the top management, they admitted that they were wrong.
Oh, that brings us to our next key point, that is bias awareness. So basically, what you need to do is you need to train your brain to spot biases. Like for example, someone has an habit of fixating into the first thing you saw. I remember walking into a mall and just entering into a first store and just buying that one T-shirt and not looking for other better options.
Correct.
I guess it's not just me being lazy; it's my decision-making mechanism that I follow, or giving too much to recent events. For example, if something is trending, but I'm feeling that okay, I need to have it. It's just me going through fear of missing it out, and I just buy that stuff even though I didn't need it.
So let me add an example over there. Like, let's talk about the younglings who get out of college. Like, for example, the Canada was the next place to go. Oh, this is happening, that is happening. And they signed up for the universities and everything. They put like 30-40 lakhs in loans. And then when they went there, the reality was something different. And people were like, the reality shattered. So this is like both examples that you spoke about, Robbie. Anchoring, like you fixating that, oh, Canada is the place to go.
Right.
And recently, and a lot of people saying, oh, it is a very nice place on
It's trending.
it's trending in
Everyone's
YouTube and
going.
everything. And Instagram is like filled with those stupid people. And then when you go there, the reality is shifting. Like I saw that this one YouTube video, it was in Vancouver. There was this job opening in a finance firm, and they just had 2 or 3 job openings, and that too for an intern. And there were 400-500 people lined up outside.
Insane. So now that we have covered what makes a good decision maker, and I would like to ask that what are the common decision making traps that one can fall into?
Oh, I am like the flag bearer of this. Okay, so I will start with the very first point for me. And when I started off in the financial research, I remember financial research was like my go-to thing. Like everyone used to come to me for help. Like, oh, can you find me this? Can you find me that? And I was really good at finding stuff. I was really good at solving problems. So it made me a lot of overconfident and arrogant, to be very honest. If you think that you're right, more right than any other person, it can lead into like a myopic vision as well. So for example, let's say a manager overrides everyone's feedback because I have done this before, and ends up launching the wrong campaign or a very expensive campaign. Okay,
Hmm.
that's one example. Then there is a framing mindset as well. Okay, let's say you look at a problem. Okay, you have seen something similar but not same. Okay, but because you have this experience that, oh, I had this xxx problem, someone had this
Oh,
xxx problem, so you will frame your logic around that particular problem. But and if you do not do a proper research or do not get into the inside part of that particular problem, you might have the framing effect problem, so you will get swayed. So saying that, let's say for example, let's say that 10% of people fail this course sounds worse than 90% passing that particular exam, but it's the same data. But why are those 10% people failing this course? Nobody's looking at it. Okay, you just say, oh, 10% people are failing and hence I will not do this.
right.
But what about 90% people who passed? So what will you
There is
look at? Like,
there is no
why those 10% people fail? Will you
the
look at it?
positive perspective is missing, it
Correct.
seems.
Like a lot of times you go on Amazon, for example, right? You see that, oh, this particular product has a 4.1 rating. All right, very good. Good decision. Like you saw the
Yeah.
ratings, but did you go inside the ratings and check the recent ones, why they are failing? Did you check that? At least
Right.
do that one
And the
research.
number of ratings also matter.
Correct.
Like there is one rating that is 4 starred, and the product is like just newly launched, and there is an old product which has listen thousands of rating with four
With slightly
star
lesser, like 3.9, for
numbers. Yeah.
example.
So I
Yeah.
think that is the effect which will have, because if I frame myself with the thought that 4 star rating is good enough, I may end up buying the wrong product.
Correct. Then next thing that I felt was decision fatigue. Okay, because you and me, we both are in the finance firm. We are working like sometimes 10, 12 hours, sometimes 14 hours. It depends on the kind of project that we're handling. And again, for everyone, I'm not promoting 12, 14 hours of work. This is not what we recommend. But there are times where we have to sit. Okay. And this is how the finance world, it's not that we choose to do that. It is sometimes the situation that has, we have to do it, we have to do it. Okay, so so this leads to something called as decision fatigue. Okay, sometimes you will make the most poor decisions when you're mentally drained. Like for example,
That 2 a.m. Emotional purchases,
correct.
Amazon purchases at the night.
Correct. Like How I Met Your Mother. Yes, yes. The fans of How I Met Your Mother. So yeah, for example, I'll put it in example. Like if you've ever accepted a meeting invite just because it came at 6 p.m., it's a classic fatigue move. Sometimes you should say no. I don't think so. I'm ready for this particular
Yeah.
decision. And as you said, that severity of the decision also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If it is a very high importance decision, you should not do it at the fag end of the day when you're already drained out.
Yeah, it clearly seems that you haven't put it much effort in thinking while making this decision. It's just we know that the meeting is some other day. I'll just accept it now and maybe think about it later.
Then the last thing that I feel for me is, or for anyone, is a confirmation bias. Okay, so if you're a person who has this problem of confirmation bias, wherein you're only looking for the information that supports your idea. Okay, like for example, only checking customer reviews that praise the new feature, ignoring the ones that point out the bugs, like the one that I covered in an example, that, oh, you're looking at the 4 star rating, but why aren't you looking at the 1% or that 1 star that lost? And also, it's very necessary to look at the problems also. It's a good thing that you do a pros and cons, but if you ignore the cons, then it might have a severe effect in your decision making process. So yeah, that's that. So as I said, I'm the flag bearer of this. I've experienced all of this stupidity that I've done in the decision making.
So what I understand is that everyone participating in the meeting, and there should be a rotation of roles in the meeting. Let assign someone to play a skeptic, and someone to be an idealist, and someone to be a realist. Just like we assign roles like a dinner party with a smarter outfits. And moving on, let's. You were just mentioning about the framework which you have done a little research on that we can use. Can you help us with that?
So I came across this particular framework during my management trainings and stuff. So there was this framework which I heard about and which is quite effective. And probably I'll give you an example as well for this one, called as a BADIR framework. So this is sort of an acronym. So let's start with each word, to be precise, or each alphabet. I'm so sorry. So let's start with the first alphabet, B. So B is, what is the business question? Okay, what do you think is the problem, for example, or what decision you're going to make? So you write it as a question. Okay, like for example, why are the sales down in Q2? Then moving on to A, plan the analysis. What do we compare? Quarter versus quarter, segment versus region. The D is for gather the data. So like for example, sales data, CRM reports, client feedbacks, you put it in something like that. Then I is for generate insights. Find the one client type that dropped off. Okay. And finally, R, share the recommendations. We need to re-engage healthcare clients via webinars, etc. So this is how I structure. Another example I can give you is in my equity research days. So how are those whole pitch decks made? So the first question, that's the business question. Okay. Why should I invest in this particular business? Okay. So you have to answer the why. Why is that business so lucrative? Let's start again. So why should I invest in this particular business? All right. So you would make a certain, what you can call it as like a rationale, that okay, business rationale of why should I put money into this. Then you start analyzing. So in your analysis, you will put down what is the management, what is the organization framework, governance, and everything. You will say that okay, in so and so organization you have, so you will do a comparative analysis and everything, and you'll put that data inside that. So data will require your financials as in your from your top to bottom, like from sales till profit after tax. And once you do the data gathering, you will line up all that data. Then comes the insights as in, what you will do is that you will say, okay, based on the data that I have for the financials, I will generate a discounted cash flow probably, or probably I'll come to a future value of this particular business. So you generate insights out of it, and then all that information that you have done, like starting from the B to I, then last thing is you give your recommendations, that is it good to buy this particular business, or is it okay to invest in this particular stock or not. All right. So that is how I put it. And this is when I learned that, okay, this is how you put it over there. It's structured, it's fast, and it makes sense.
Yeah. And it does keep the emotional drama out of the decision.
Yes, that's true. Then there is one more option, or another method. It's a simple pros and cons list. Okay.
I remember Walter White making pros and con list before he was killing that guy in the basement.
Yes, and I remember like even if, let's say, I'll give an example out of this particular situation, is that if you want to move into a new city for a job, okay, what will you look at? So pros would be better salary, career growth, probably great networking,
environment.
Yes, environment as well.
Yeah.
And for cons, for example, my family is very far away, the rent is higher. So say if your salary is able to cover your rent, able to help you communicate better with your family, etc., then you're left with career versus family, and that's your real trade-off, right?
Yeah.
So old school, it's like a very old school genius method, and thanks to Ben, who also invented bifocals. So this guy is saying something that is very smart. So it's coming from a very smart guy. So I would say that, yeah, make that kind of decision making. And it brings to our next segment, which is corporate tips that you can actually use.
So you're listing down the corporate tips that our listeners can use.
Correct. So let's say the very first thing that you always have to do is write your thought process before the big call. Okay. You'll be shocked how many gut decisions fall apart when you try to explain them in words.
Right. I follow this process of never making decisions when I'm angry and always take minimum 24 hours before responding, taking action on any serious matter.
Correct. And then the next thing is define success upfront. You should have this particular thing in your mind. How do you define success? Like, how do you want to look at it? Like, for example, a very simple thing. You want to buy a shirt, okay, or you want to buy a bike. So, me personally, what I do is I make the decision by trying out the shirt. Let me see how I look. It can look very nice to your eyes, but does it look good on you? Or are you, when you ride a bike, are you feeling comfortable? Because you can look at a bike, it looks good, the price is right, but when I sit on it, does it make sense? Does it like am I happy about it?
Right. Because you're not just going and buying it vaguely, you're having a precise goals
Correct.
and purpose.
Like in a organization perspective, if you feel that okay, the campaign was successful, but were there any conversions? Did you get real conversions out of it?
Oh.
That also you have to make sense. So you have to do those small campaigns before you do a big campaign, is what I feel. Right. So and then it brings to my next point. Okay, I did everything, but what if I'm wrong?
Right. Okay.
What if I'm wrong? Then at that point of time, you have to have a powerful pause point. It opens your mind and it makes you sound smart in the meetings. You will say, oh, what if I'm wrong? Let's say, okay, you made this whole plan, but what if I'm wrong?
You can always ask to circle back or take a pause to think.
Correct.
Gather your thoughts.
Yes. And sometimes you don't take a decision then. Take a pause and come probably a day or after.
Yeah,
2
exactly.
2 days.
My mechanism of that I sleep on it for a while
Correct.
and I let my brain consolidate all the information overnight. And at the moment, then I will also consider my gut feeling that if I'm very positive about it, maybe I'll go ahead with that.
Correct. So there is an example that I have. So sometimes delaying final hiring decision by a day, you'll often spot red flags in the next morning. Like what happened is recently that we interviewed this particular person. He was good. Like, okay, nice, good chap, said a lot of right things, gave us the right approach and everything. And then we waited. And because we were interviewing other people and everything. And I think that whole, because we are interviewing 30 people, so it can't happen in a day, probably took a week. And then us and the HR people, when we went back on a call, he was quite frustrated. Like, dude, what is this? And he literally abused the HR person. And then we came to know that he's not the right fit because of this situation. So yeah, a delay in that matter helped us a lot. And finally, encourage dissent. Okay, like people should be having opposing views. Somebody once said that in a parliament there should be an opposition. Okay, it is necessary to have an opposition because someone will say, "Oh, these reforms are really good, this, that, and this will help people." But the opposition asked from the front that, "Oh, how much will it cost? Like, is the cost benefit analysis done or not?"
They have their unique inputs and
Correct.
that different perspectives.
Yes. So the goal here is just not to open the floor, like, oh, tell anything, but at least have that particular mindset that have like an opposing view. If there are 10 minds in a room, statistically, at least 2-3 people will have opposing view.
Right.
Right. And yeah, so it's the goal is not consensus, it is clarity. Always decision making is really helpful when it is clear.
Right. That's great. And that's a wrap for this episode of Corporate Elements. If this helped you think differently, share it with your team or the one friend who makes life decisions based on astrology.
So this is to our dear listeners. You can catch all the episodes at our Buzzsprout link, and you can tell us what topics that you want broken down next.
And we are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Correct. So until next time, make smart moves and stay sharp.
Thank you.